Yeah, hi there. These comments are for Haytham. This is Michael. I am the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons. And you completed integrated practice test number 5 about homeschooling. And you also paid for the additional service to have me edit, reorganize, do whatever it takes to get this thing up to 5 out of 5, right? So looking as the way that you have it now, you're probably going to score in the 2.0 out of 5 range. So you're probably looking at about 13 or 14 points out of 30. And let's take a look at it. Now, first thing I want to do is get a general word count. I think you're fine there. You have no problem getting enough words. So right now you're at 342 words. You don't have to do any more than that. Okay, so let's begin here. So I want to go to the first paragraph and make some changes here. So you say, the reading passage, I think it's a little bit wordy. Actually, let's keep what you have here, and I will go down to my version here, and then you can compare, I think, the two versions. Okay, I think you're a little bit wordy. You can say the reading passage I would say claims something like this, that homeschooling and if you look at the idea here, the first key point is it will deprive students of social interaction. You might want to say will limit the social interaction that students will have with their peers. That's the negative idea. I know that it says it gives students an opportunity to learn at their own pace, but that's not really the negative. That's a positive thing. It's saying it deprives many students of social interaction with others. That seems to be the main point there. So I'm going to get rid of this idea here. You don't have to talk about everything. And the next idea is the parents who homeschool the children lack the credentials to effectively teach their children, or giving the children what's called a well-rounded education, according to the paragraph 3. So we'll go to the next idea. So homeschooling will limit the social interaction that students will have with their peers. It will prevent them from getting... it says well-rounded in the reading passage. I'm going to give you a word. How about comprehensive? From getting a comprehensive education due to a lack of what's called credentialed teachers, according to how about due to parents lacking the credentials and time. Then we have our last idea. And I think that you're missing something from the reading passage. You're trying to paraphrase the information, which is good, but your vocabulary is not actually accurate, because you say lacks the sociality and punctuality toward his tasks. If you look at the final point in the reading, it says, homeschool prevents students from being punctual and responsible. And it also talks about which may affect their future careers. Fails on time and responsible. That's probably what I would say there. Then you say, on the other hand, the listening passage refutes of these points. That's probably good enough here. I don't think you need the rest of this. Alright? So you don't have to do too much in the introduction. The main thing is to connect, to explain the 3 key points of the reading, and then mention how the lecture disagrees with those points. So the reading passage claims that homeschooling will limit the social interaction that students will have with their peers, as point number 1, prevent them from getting a comprehensive education due to parents lacking their credentials and time. Actually, not fail, but I'm actually saying will limit, will prevent, and fail to teach students to be on time and responsible. Probably just use a pronoun there. On the other hand, the listening passage refutes each of these points. First of all, and this is good, you got a good organization here. While the reading passage says that students, but you're forgetting homeschooling. You got to put homeschool in there. While the reading passage says that homeschooling allows students maybe to work, I don't know rhythm. I don't think rhythm is the best way to explain that. I'm going to say pace, what it kind of says in the reading passage. Okay, so while the reading passage says that homeschooling allows students to work at their own pace, I think you want to put a comma here. It will lead, I don't know, it will prevent them, I think, from, the key point in the reading is it will deprive them of the social interaction that they need. Much needed social interaction with their peers. right? Something like that. That's really the first key point of the second paragraph, right? You don't have to do too much here. If you say something like that while the reading passage says, maybe the reading passage says homeschooling allows students to work at their own pace, maybe here, but it will not allow them to have much needed social interaction with their peers. Now we have to go to okay, let's take a look at the idea here. It says, it looks like the listening is going to disagree with this point. So in the second paragraph, the listening, it says, social skills are important, but many of the top paying jobs like accounting do not require social skills. Acquiring and practicing social skills are not the same for many students. Some students are shy, and homeschool will provide them with a more relaxed and secure environment. There are other opportunities for socializing, such as social networks and extracurricular activities like clubs and sports. Okay, you say the lecture refutes this. That's good. Might want to say, however, the listening passage refutes this. Teachers give an assignment is followed by solving at home. Yeah, I don't know where you're getting that. The listening doesn't really say that. However, I think it does say this. So you could say, I don't know, sociality. I think you want to say here, claiming that, so the listening passage refutes this, claiming that social skills, you would say here, differ from how about one person to another, and you might want to say in some cases you might say being sociable is not an important issue. You would say because you might want to say some high wage jobs, you might want to say like accountants, do not need to be more social. How about do not need to be that social, maybe. So who do not need to be that social. In some regular schools, let students relax. I think you want to say here relax without the ed, because you're using it more as an infinitive, not as a verb. So let students relax without exert pressure on them because of the number of students in class. Now let's look at listening. Make sure you have this correct. Yeah, I don't think you're writing this exactly the way they need. let's period here, if we can miss the idea in this paragraph. The other point in the listening, it says that some students are shy and homeschool provides those children with a more relaxed and secure environment. If they need to socialize, they can socialize and do other things like participating in clubs and sports. You might want to say, additionally, it is argued, which means the listening, it is argued that some children are shy. You might want to say, and if they are homeschooled, they will have a lot less a more maybe secure maybe a more secure and comfortable learning environment. Okay, let's take a look at it one more time. I think we got it. So we'll say, first of all, the reading passage says homeschooling allows students to work, actually we should say here work at, not on, to work at their own pace, but it will not allow them to have much needed social interaction with their peers. However, the listening passage refutes this, claiming that social skills differ from one person to another, and in some cases, being sociable is not an important issue because some high-wage jobs like accountants do not need to be that social. How about anyway? That might even be better to put that word there. Additionally, it is argued that some children are shy, and if they are homeschooled, they will have a more secure and comfortable learning environment. Now, if you say first of all, I think here you should say second of all. Keep it parallel. You want to keep things similar. I'm going to lecture on. I'm going to reading passage. Okay, let's go to the next idea. It says the concept or success of homeschool introduced and managed by irresponsible parents. Most parents have to work many times. They lack credential time to your children. Unfortunately, irresponsible parents are a part of the homeschool problems. So the absence of a specifically trained credentialed instructor will decrease students' chance of having a well-rounded education. So you say, the reading passage confirms that parents in homeschooling lack responsibility. I'm going to say teach not their sons but their children. Now if you put a comma, I don't think so. You need a semicolon here. That way you avoid what's called a sentence formation problem. It's what I call comma splices. So moreover, they're not credentialed. They're not credentially qualified to teach, which has a negative impact when a student comes to the work field. I'm going to use plural there because you said, we'll say children, students. The problem is it doesn't really say that. It just says it will decrease a student's chance of having a well-rounded education. So I don't think Maybe how about here? How about thereby limiting the scope and breadth of their children's education. There, I think we got it. So if you look back at what it says in the second point is it will decrease a student's chance of having a well-rounded education. So I use synonyms to say limiting the scope and the breadth of their children's education. Now we used however before, so here I'm going to say in contrast. I like how you're doing that, by the way. That it's a good place to put that transition word because you show how the information in the listening is different from the information in the reading. You say the listening about the lecture Okay, so let's see. So it looks like in the lecture it's saying that there are minimal cases of abuse and irresponsible parenting. They're saying that that's a very small number of parents who fit that area. And it also disagrees that teachers do not instruct homeschool students is completely false. So it looks like teachers guide and instruct students through computer software accompanied by hard copies of textbooks, and the parents' roles are significantly reduced to monitoring or answering general questions. Okay, so you see the point here? They're saying that even though the parents might not be credentialed, they're still using educational materials, which will still be beneficial to the students. Okay, so let's see what you say. Let's separate this for just a minute. So the lecture refutes that. That's probably a little bit wordy. How about just say argues? If you just say argues, you don't have to say refutes that necessarily, because if you use the word in contrast, you're saying that the information in the lecture is clearly different, from the information in the reading passage. That's the whole purpose of using that transition word, is to show the difference of idea. So you say argues that teaching and homeschooling. Well, the first thing you have to say, I'm going to say something like that. So the lecture is disagreeing and saying there are some irresponsible parents, but it's not the majority of them. So it's saying that you can't let, just a few small examples of irresponsible parents determine the success or failure of homeschooling. How about this? Use it as a verb. Okay, so The lecture argues the cases of having irresponsible parents homeschool their children are insignificant. How about furthermore, the speaker contends that teachers in homeschooling complete access to, how about educational technology. Then it does give some examples. I think you're doing that. So that I think you're missing this point here. Parents in homeschooling have complete access to educational technology so that homeschooled students can have access. And I think it's saying here so what they're saying is what you're not really saying is even though the parents do not have credentials, according to the lecture, the students will still have contact with credentialed teachers by using the computer technology. So the students will be watching videos, they'll be having teachers teaching them about history or whatever, and that helps make up for that lack of what's called credentialed teachers. We might say through that point you're not really getting, but I think that is a important idea. Through computer software. I think you want to say here textbooks, then you might put a period here. Therefore, the parent's role is limited to general explanation and monitoring. That, I think we got it. Let's read it one more. And I think we got to put these together now. There, now we got it. So we have, second of all, the reading passage confirms that parents in homeschooling lack the responsibility to direct their children, semicolon, moreover, comma, they are not credentially qualified to teach, which has a negative impact, thereby limiting the scope and breadth of their child's education. In contrast, the lecture argues the cases of having irresponsible parents homeschool their children are insignificant. How about maybe I think we should probably say something like that. All right, let's go back. So second of all, the reading passage confirms that parents in homeschooling lack the responsibility to direct their children. Moreover, they are not credentially qualified to teach, which has a negative impact, thereby limiting the scope and breadth of their children's education. In contrast, the lecture argues the cases of having irresponsible parents homeschool their children occur rather infrequently, with most parents being very responsible. So furthermore, the speaker contends that parents maybe parents who homeschool have complete access to educational technology so that homeschooled students can have access to credentialed teachers through computer software and textbooks. Therefore, the parent's role is limited to general explanation and monitoring. Okay, let's go to your third paragraph. So we have first of all, second of all, finally. And let's go back to the reading. Yeah, no, I think you're kind of running into trouble here because we don't even know where this is. I mean, you're getting a little lazy on me here. The reading passage asserts. Notice how I try to use different words there. I said here asserts. Up here I use the word confirm. So by using different words when you're introducing the source material, that demonstrates to the IBT TOEFL raters that you have a fairly good range of vocabulary. So the reading passage asserts that homeschooling will give students the ability to be self-dependent. For example, I don't know, you're running into very big trouble with this paragraph, I'll be honest with you. This is really dropping your score very quickly. It says here in that final paragraph, is homeschool prevents students from being punctual and responsible. So you have to say homeschooling punctual and responsible. since these children will not need go to school at a certain time. So, for example, students who show up late to high school may get suspension or some other form of punishment which teaches them to be responsible. Will not maybe learn the routine and requirements for being on time and for meeting deadlines, maybe. The other hand, speaker in the lecture claims that so we have to go look at that. So this is where you really ran into trouble. You kind of ignored that final paragraph. Before your conclusion, it isn't clear what's going on in there. I don't know where this information is coming from. Is it the reading? Is it the lecture? We don't know. So if we look at the final thing, how about homeschool children, maybe comma, by on their own. about become very responsible they are learning the we might say in their jobs. I think we're getting there. Probably a little bit too much here. I'm putting too much. You don't have to have exactly these number of words in here. But your fourth paragraph was just missing too much information. It wasn't really clear what was going on in that paragraph. Okay, let's look at this last paragraph one more time. So finally, the reading passage asserts that homeschooling prevents students from being punctual and responsible since they will not need to go to school at a certain time. For example, students who show up late to high school may get suspension or some other form of punishment, which teaches them to be responsible, unlike the students who suffer consequences for being late. Reading past claims, homeschool students will not learn the routine requirements of being on time and for meeting deadlines. On the other hand, speaker lecture claims that homeschool children, by reading and completing assignments on their own, will learn to become self-reliant. Moreover, these students will become very responsible because they are learning to work through their own academic problems, which may also teach them to be about independent and responsible in future jobs. I pretty much have to get rid of that whole paragraph that you wrote. I apologize, but I couldn't save it. It just wasn't organized enough. Okay, let's look at your conclusion. Not the most important part of it, but let's see what you did. To sum up, I'm going to put a comma here. After the reading passage, I'm going to put rejects the positivity. I don't think that's the right word. I'm going to say advantages. So after the reading passage rejects the advantages of homeschooling, the listening passage I don't think you have to really say contradicted that. The listening passage how about this? There. Now we don't have to worry about saying contradicted that. We can just say this. Even though the reading passage rejects the advantages of homeschooling, the listening passage claims So we have to take the idea and look at each point. So the listening basically says, okay, basically they will have a more secure, comfortable learning environment. Basically what we have to do is we have to look at the conclusion here, right? Which really lets us know what's going on. We just have to restate that. So let's put it down here as a guide. Peers. I'm going to say maybe something like that. I think we got it. Pretty close. We need to read it through one more time. Okay, so we're going to read it through one more time, and this is what you wrote, and this is what it looks like now. So let's go one more time, check everything. Let me do spell check quickly. Okay, so the reading passage claims that homeschooling will limit the social interaction that students will have with their peers, prevent from getting comprehensive education due to parents lacking their credentials time, and fail to teach them to be on-time responsible. On the other hand, the listening passage fused to these points. Paragraph 2. First of all, the reading passage says that homeschooling allows students to work at their own pace, but it will not allow them to have much needed to interact with their peers. However, the listening passage, we probably get rid of that, get a little bit dirty, S word. Claims social skills differ from one person to another, and in some cases in social. How about just social? Being social is not an important issue because some high job like accountants do not need to be social anyway. Additionally, it is argued that some children are shy, and if they homeschool, they'll probably put a conversation that dependent cause apart from the rest of that independent cause, they'll have a more secure and comfortable living environment. Second of all, move this to the top. Reading passage confirms that parents in homeschooling lack the responsibility to direct their children. Moreover, they are not potentially qualified to teach, which has a negative impact, thereby limiting the scope and breadth of their children's education. In contrast, the lecture argues you probably should that. Then we know you're introducing a cause. Argue that the case of having responsible parents homeschool their children occur rather infrequently, with most parents being responsible, probably don't vary. How about this? Let's make it a less work. Most parents responsible with teaching, the better. Their children. Furthermore, the speaker contends that parents who homeschool have complete access to educational technology, that homeschooled students can have access to credentialed teachers through computer software texts. Therefore, parent role is limited to general exploration and monitoring. you might say. Therefore, the speaker claims the parent is limited to general explanation of monitoring. Science near the end, it's a good idea to know where the information is coming from. Your next paragraph. This is the one. This is off the cliff. This is the one that made your score really drop. You say, the reading passage asserts that homeschooling prevents students from being punctual and responsible since they will not need to go to school at a certain time. For example, students who show up late to high school may get suspension or some other form of punishment which teaches them to be responsible. Unlike these students who suffer consequences for being late, the reading passage claims that homeschool students will not learn the routine and requirements for being on time and for meeting deadlines. On the other hand, the speaker in the lecture claims that homeschool children, by reading and completing assignments on their own, will learn to become self-reliant. Moreover, these students will become very responsible because they're learning to work through their own academic problems, which may also teach them to be independent and responsible in their future jobs. To sum up, even though the reading passage rejects the advantages of homeschooling, the listening passage claims that homeschool students will be able to interact with their peers, get a well-rounded education, and develop important job skills such as being self-reliant and responsible. We got it. That's it. So what do? I think, based on what I read, I would highly recommend you need a little bit better vocabulary, so I would recommend work really hard in the vocabulary part of my course. Also with your grammar, you are having some grammar problems with punctuation, for example, so go through my grammar lessons on punctuation. I think that will help you. But generally, you have most of the main points, but you did miss or had some misunderstanding with some of the points from either the reading or the lecture. So you also need to continue to improve your reading and your listening proficiency skills, and then you will continue to improve. And anyway, at the conclusion of this video, again, this is what you wrote, and I'm going to put you at about 2.0 out of 5. You're probably looking between 13 and 14 points out of 30. And these are my changes that I made to your essay. And this will get you right around 5.0 out of 5 or 30 points out of 30. Now, I know some of you at YouTube might be watching this and you might say, well, Michael, you did not correct every single thing. Probably not. This is a live video here, so I did this with no planning at all, so obviously it's not going to be perfect. But anyway, Haytham, keep up the good work. Continue. Now go through, keep practicing more and more of these integrated writing practice tests, and you'll get more and more familiar with how to organize and develop your responses.